probably won't satisfy most people who would be inquiring about this, but I have had this question. A gentleman who's visited our church, so this has not come from somebody who's a part of our church. He's visited our church now 3 separate times, and each time he seems to show up after something big erupts in between Israel and Palestine. And he comes hoping and expecting that I'm going to give some kind of a long sermon. He's never said long sermon. He's always said a sermon. I'm the one who's saying long sermon. He's expecting a sermon that I'm going to give on why we should support Israel. And so each time I give him explanations, listen, I am a concerned Christian that anywhere that there is unrest and humanitarian injustice going on, I'm interested in it. I'm interested in the injustice that's going on in Israel in the same way I am in Ukraine or Russia or Japan or China or among the Uyghur people. I'm interested and I'm concerned about injustice that's done. So the question generally then means is what is your position on Israel and America? There's a couple of other questions that this will come up again in that are probably more related to that. My intent is never to frustrate anyone. My intention is to be careful. I have access to a lot of archived books and sermons who say a lot of things. I remember about 3 years ago reading about the Millerites. You remember church history, American church history, the Millerites, this group of Baptists in the South. This is about the time of the formation of the Southern Baptist Convention. So I was doing a lot of history reading about the formation of the Southern Baptist Convention. And I came across this group of Baptists known as the Millerites. And this pastor, really he was a traveling evangelist, and going from city to city preaching about the end of the world. And he even goes so far as begin setting dates. And it was so successful. I mean, people apparently they just ate this kind of thing up. They would hear that he was going to be in town. He would be preaching a series of meetings. And before he even got there, the flood of people would just come to his meetings. And so he eventually starts setting some dates. And the next thing you know, that date came and went. And you know how the pattern works. Well, I misinterpreted this. I miscalculated for that. And I wasn't considering the moon phases or this particular issue or that matter. And so then he sets another date. And he's more popular the second time than he was the first time. And the second time it was widely known in America as the Great Anticipation. It became known as, and is today still called, the Great Disappointment. And the argument came out of that era of the Millerites, these Baptist group that was preaching the end of the world and the second coming of Christ, is that it really began to turn people away from seeking the truth of the Bible. I would, even as best as I can, try to give as much grace and much mercy as I can, because listen, I've held to positions historically that I want to distance myself from today. And so when I think about the Millerites and Miller himself, I think he was genuinely desiring to see a revival take place. But it became really a sideshow of crazy date-setting things. You know why you never hear about the Millerites? Because they became the framework for the Seventh-day Adventist. Well, that's not even the question here. I've totally left the question. This is one of the reasons I want to be really careful about what I say about Israel. I want to be biblical, and I'm not afraid to be biblical when it's not popular, but I just want to be careful. And so, so I'll just leave it there. And it'll come up in some other questions. Maybe even if we have enough time, you may want to ask some more clarifying question to that. The individual who asked this question is not here tonight, and I might expect him to be here the next time a bomb lands in the middle of Israel.